Remember that
ahead on the track, by the way, a bit ahead.
Right. Remember that Herta had the pole position some months now ago at Phoenix, and he has languished since then, has not really run well. Rumors have circulated that the team might drop him. He's fired up this weekend. He comes from Ohio, graduate of Ohio State, and we're glad to see him doing well.
Leader of the race, Gil de Ferran, comes into the pits, his first stop of the day. That's an indicator of radar speed that was blocking our view there for a moment. Jim Hall's team goes to work on the car. Everything looks routine thus far. No major changes. They seem to be happy with it. Didn't see any hands go for either the front or rear wing. So Gil de Ferran comes back into the fight, making his stop on lap 29. In the meantime, the officials are showing the black flag to Marco Greco. He was in and out of the pits, and in doing so broke the 80-mile-an-hour pit speed limit, so they'll give him a stop-and-go penalty. Boy, look at that as de Ferran comes out. That's one of the danger areas of this turn one. It's also where the return road from the pits joins the racetrack, and you've got to be very careful when you're moving out there.
You really do, because even though sometimes it's a first gear turn for some of the drivers take it in second. It is the slowest turn on the track. Basically, you're only going 56 miles an hour approximately there, but you come out of the pits, it's really critical.
See de Ferran hurdle it through those S-bends there. He told me that was the hardest and the last part of the track he really mastered. There's such a big bump in the middle of the S's. You have to throw the car sideways and then catch it on the other side of the bump.
Moving back to look at the battle for second, Villeneuve and Teo Fabi. Teo closes in once again as they pass Bobby Rahal, put him a lap down. There's the view from Rahal's car.
The amazing thing is that Fabi is pushing so hard with a pit stop just ahead. He has tried Villeneuve several times. You see him again running side by side. It really doesn't seem to matter that much. But once you get Teo, there's...
seemed to matter to Bobby Rahal.
I don't know what he's doing out there.
He got such a view out there that he
became enthralled with the view.
He got caught up watching that fight. And, of course, Carlos Guerrero, you saw him come through there as well. Now they close up on Herta. Herta coming up through that field.
This is going to create some interesting strategy, because everybody's pitting on a different cycle, and so it's not like the leader came in and then everybody followed him in. So it's going to be everybody's pitting at a different point, which dictates and shows their hand a little bit, I think, on fuel mileage as well as just their pit stop strategy. I think Herta just came in the pits.
With his stop, de Ferran fell all the way down to 5th place. That gave the lead to Jacques Villeneuve. Herta was able to move around Fittipaldi, and doing so assumed second, but then he rolled off into the pits, and now it is once again Villeneuve and Teo Fabi in contact, though now battling first and second.
I'd be interested to hear from Jack and Gary on this, but it seems that the pit stop strategy is more abstract. People are not doing things because of what other drivers and teams are doing. They're doing it just to maximize their own situation and really not caring so much what the others are doing.
Sam, that's almost contrary to what all the crew chiefs were telling us before the start of the race. They were saying we'll all pivot off what the leader does. It'll be dictated if we get by that opening when the window is open. They're trying to make it a two-stop race, but a lot of these guys are doing absolutely their own thing. I don't know if that's an indication of fuel mileage or the way the car is handling.
And Gary, the only team that had elected not to do that, not do a monkey see, monkey do, was Team Green and Jacques Villeneuve. They have said that they were going to come in on lap 30. That's indeed what they have done. Team Green is ready. Now remember, we said before they came into the pits, they were going to add some front wing. So we'll wait to see if a crew member will reach over and try and adjust the wing. First job is to change the tires, take on the fuel. There's the adjustment on the left side, now the right side. It looked as if a full turn, clean off the radiators, take on the fuel, and Villeneuve's away according to plan.
And de Ferran comes screaming past. Now Teo Fabi did not head into the pits on that lap. He elected to stay out, so he'd be scored as the lap leader at the conclusion of that lap. Here comes Jacques Villeneuve as he joins the fight once again. And de Ferran is back up to speed and running at full tilt after his service. So the top cars have received service thus far. Jacques Villeneuve, Gil de Ferran, Teo Fabi stayed out for that lap.
Fabi is a real gamer. You get him inside the 10-yard line, so to speak, and you see him here coming into the pit. He will give a terrific performance. Gary's there.
Tony Brunetti and the crew are poised and ready. We're anticipating a half turn on the front wing. Everything else is terrific. Here's the nose of the 33 car right on the marks. Third place at Long Beach, his best finish this year. He's had a pair of fourths. And Sam, like you said, he is a gamer. Now we'll watch for that adjustment. There it is. First on the left, then on the right. Fueling complete. 13.2 seconds. Great stop.
So Teo Fabi, who had the lead for one lap, relinquishes that lead and joins the fight once again. And the order after this series of stops is de Ferran once again in front, followed by now Jacques Villeneuve. But Teo Fabi may have gotten Jack coming out.
Yeah, it looks as if the exchange of second place took place during the pit stops.
Wow.
That is very unusual, because when you look at the Team Green car here, the blue one of Jacques Villeneuve, he is the guy that typically has been picking up spots throughout the year.
They've had spectacular stops all year. So Teo Fabi with a nice piece of driving and perhaps even better work off of his crew. Forsyth team doing a nice job. De Ferran still doing the best job. Leads this race. 33 laps now complete on the Burke Lakefront Airport. Go back, take a look at Michael Andretti, who with his stop has fallen down to 13th place. Interesting stat there on the pit stops between Teo Fabi and Jacques Villeneuve. Both of them in the 14-second bracket. Teo at 14.3 and Jack 14.8. I guess the question that has to come up, was there any violation of pit speed limit on the way out? Or did track position matter?
A half a second is very hard to gain on a racetrack. You lose it in the pits, you just lose it sitting there.
Well, remember that Fabi ran one more lap before he stopped on a light fuel load. That could be the difference, not the time spent stopped in the pit.
So now once again we're able to split the screen for you with Michael Andretti on the bottom and Brian Herta on the top. Two cars in contact. The view from overhead. Michael Andretti, Brian Herta. Herta, the bright red car. Michael Andretti closes a little bit in the corner, but that closure immediately lost because the acceleration off the corner separates the cars once again.
The depth perception is so difficult here if you're even watching like this, or even you're in the race car. You think, oh, I'm gaining on him, because you gate under braking, and then it's just the acceleration here is so wide, and you could really have so much room that you lose all of it.
Now as the other cars have peeled off for their stops, this battle comes forward. Brian Herta is in 5th, Michael Andretti in 6th.
Michael desperately needs this race if he's going to keep up the momentum that he got from his win last week in Toronto. There's
fire on Mauricio Gugelmin's car at the back end. It'll pop out of the turbocharger. Maybe that engine is gone as well.
Gugelmin has had the best finishing record of any car in the series. He's 10 for 11, but not today.
So Gilles de Ferran, the leader here, followed by Teo Fabi, then Jacques Villeneuve with great work by the Forsyth crew. 36 laps are now complete at the Burke Lakefront Airport in Cleveland. Been a run that has been totally dominated so far by the rookie Gilles de Ferran with a great day. At the start of this race, there was contact even before the green flag with Andre Ribeiro, Paul Tracy, and Scott Pruitt got caught up in that action as well. As a result, Paul Tracy has fallen well behind the field, had some damage to his car, and then fell out. Ribeiro was out of the race on that, and Scott Pruitt has continued on. Here at lap 39 are the way the top positions are in this field. They have, in fact, completed their first pit stops, and Gilles de Ferran came out of those pit stops on top, and Teo Fabi, his Forsyth crew, giving him a great stop, was able to get around Jacques Villeneuve and move into second place. Villeneuve is now third. But let's review some of those stops, beginning with Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, there seems to be two different approaches to pit stops here. With the distance of this race at 90 laps, some crews felt they could maybe make it on only 2 stops, but that necessitated pushing the window as far forward as possible. Now, what the teams have done is Jacques Villeneuve and Theo Fabi have determined they have to go in their first stop to lap 30. Both accomplished that. The same, though, cannot be said with Gilles de Ferran. De Ferran pitted a little bit earlier, as did some of his counterparts back in 5th and 6th. So some teams are planning on only 2 stops, and then some teams are planning on 3 stops. Let's check in with Gary Gerould for another story on pit road.
Well, Jack, this pit strategy, of course, being played out up and down. Every team, for the most part, teams are shooting for the 2-stop race. One of the primary concerns always on this very rough, abrasive circuit pertains to gearboxes and suspension pieces. Thus far, in the first 40 laps now of this race, we have not had those types of problems. There have been, however, problems for Team Penske. Emerson Fittipaldi broke a water line. He has been sidelined. There was an electronics problem for Al Unser Jr. He remains on course at this time. The pit work, however, by Theo Fabi's team gained him a position in the pits over Team Green. Fabi now running second ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, but both, of course, chasing Gilles de Ferran. Paul?
And 41 laps now complete, 90 laps of scheduled distance. This is a great battle between Bryan Herta and Michael Andretti. It is a fight for 6th place. We should also remind you that out of the race thus far, we mentioned Ribeiro and Tracy. Also, both Christian and Emerson Fittipaldi are out, as is Mauricio Gugelmin. All a result of mechanicals. Boy, look at Michael as he gives Bryan Herta everything going into these corners. They've been beating at each other the past couple of laps. Our good fortune, we have onboard cameras on both cars. And while we watch this, you should know that Theo Fabi, running in 2nd place, has taken in the past 4 laps 4 seconds off of Gilles de Ferran's lead. In the booth here with me today, Sam Posey, Lyn St. James, Jack Arute, and Gary Gerould in the pits. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Paul, you talked about those 4 seconds that your leader, Gilles de Ferran, has lost. They are blaming the Scott Pruett automobile. It seemed Pruett got a little sideways directly in front of de Ferran. De Ferran had to back out of the throttle and has been negotiating around the Pruett area a little more gingerly than he might have. But they have radioed in to de Ferran that he had better pick up the pace or he's going to be feeling the heat from behind in 2nd position.
Marco Greco, quick spin on the course, doesn't look to be in danger. His 2nd problem of the day. Back to the battle, Herta and Michael.
This is Herta in 5th place, looking back at Michael Andretti in 6th. Michael was fastest here on Friday, and then yesterday when they counted in qualifying, he came up short with 10th place. They might have had small problems with the car, but they've not obviously hit the setup for race day because he is languishing well off the kind of pace that he typically runs.
Our apologies to you, too, that here, because these are airport runways, we can't bury the antennas that are used for the computerized scoring. So it's back to the old visual method. And therefore, things like intervals between drivers aren't created by the computer and so much harder to give to you. Robbie Gordon currently runs in 4th place. On board with Robbie. There's Villeneuve just to the inside. Gordon may just have him. Also turn the radio up here on Robbie Gordon's car. He's talking with Derek Walker, his team manager.